We're being told that AI deepfakes are what to worry about in politics, but frankly, a way more pernicious problem isn't deepfakes, it is cheapfakes. This week, the right-wing media ecosystem has been falling over itself, perpetuating a story that Joe Biden froze on stage and had to be ushered off by Barack Obama. Here's the New York Post headline: Biden appears to freeze up, has to be led off stage by Obama at Megabucks LA fundraiser. Hugh Hewitt: Biden freezes at fundraising event. The Daily Mail: doctors reveal condition that could be behind Biden's bizarre freezing episodes after 81-year-old has second statue moment in 1 week. And the list goes on, but you get the idea. Only, here's what the scene actually looked like. He was literally taking in the applause, waving at people, acknowledging them. There were a bunch of California Democrats right in the front row in his direct line of sight, including Governor Newsom, who's been his top surrogate. The notion that Joe Biden froze or had some physical impairment is a wholesale denial of reality perpetuated by right-wing hacks who are desperate to ensure that this election is a referendum on Biden's age as opposed to Biden's actual accomplishments or Trump's criminality. This was a completely, totally normal occurrence, and Republicans know that, but because their sole priority is weaponizing his age against him, this is the kind of manufactured crisis and faux outrage that we're left contending with. In reality, not only was Biden not in the throes of some freeze, he was actually quite effective during this event itself. Here's what he had to say about the Supreme Court.
These very personal, intimate decisions are now being made by 9 unelected judges, one of whom flies his flag upside down. The other one of the others, drives around in a $267,000 gift on vacations. And I think we are all wondering, what can we do about this?
Elect me. Again, I'll tell you why. No, I'm not just saying. The next president is likely to have 2 new Supreme Court nominees. 2 more. He's already appointed 2 that have been very negative in terms of the rights of individuals. The idea that if he's reelected, he's going to appoint 2 more flying flags upside down is really, I really mean it.
Could this be the scariest part of all of it?
Well, I think it is one of the scariest parts of it. Look, the Supreme Court has never been as out of kilter as it is today. I mean, never. I taught constitutional law for 9 years. This guy knows more about it than most. Look, the fact of the matter is that this has never been a court that's been this far out of step. And by the way, when we said after the decision that overruled Roe v. Wade, the Dobbs decision, you had Clarence Thomas talking about the fact that there are going to be other things we should reconsider, including in vitro fertilization, including contraception, including all these things. And they're going, by the way, gay rights. But by the way, not on my watch. Not on my watch.
So I get that Republicans are desperate to paint Joe as not remembering his own name, not knowing what day of the week it is, not knowing how to tie his own shoes, but per usual, you could fly a plane in the space between what Republicans say and what the reality actually is. And by the way, I had the opportunity to rebut this exact talking point during a debate with Piers Morgan, Tomi Lahren, and Cenk Uygur.
I was literally in the room. I was there, I was at that event at the Peacock Theater at LA Live. Joe Biden was doing what he always does, which is just waving at the crowd. He has a long history of working rope lines ad nauseum. During the State of the Union, he was in that room talking to people so long that the C-SPAN cameras literally turned off. And that's what he was doing on that stage. He was just waving at people who were waving back at him, to the point where Barack Obama came around and just put his arm around Joe, his own vice president, and they walked off stage together, probably because Barack Obama had less of an interest in staying and waving at the crowd as long as Joe Biden did. But this is who Joe Biden is. With that said, I understand why people like Tomi Lahren and the right more broadly have a vested interest in perpetuating this idea that Joe Biden is in the throes of cognitive decline.
And let's be clear, what happened here among these right-wing media mouthpieces isn't a one-off, it is their entire MO. You'll remember that just last week, the New York Post also published a piece of deceptively edited content, posting this video and suggesting that Joe Biden was meandering aimlessly at the G7. In reality, he was talking to a skydiver who just landed a few feet away from him. But the Post decided to narrow the frame to make it look like Joe Biden was wandering aimlessly talking to no one. Here's Mika on Morning Joe making that comparison on air.
We showed you last week the Trump campaign sharing a clip which appeared to show President Biden at the G7 summit wandering off from other world leaders before the Italian prime minister comes over to alert him about a group photo. But when you see the video from a different angle, you see the whole story. After a skydiver landed in front of the president and other leaders, President Biden turns to his left where there are troops. The president appears to say something to them and gives them the thumbs up before he's tapped on the arm by the Italian prime minister.
And look, we can give example after example, but the reality is this. If they weren't in such a dire position in this election, Republicans wouldn't have to make up these lies. Which is a point, by the way, that was echoed all the way up to the White House. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre shutting down these deceptively edited videos from behind the podium.
They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right-wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation. I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here. Instead of talking about the president's performance in office, and what I mean by that is his legislative wins, what he's been able to do for the American people across the country, we're seeing these deep fakes, these manipulated videos, and it is, again, done in bad faith.
All this disinformation does is expose how weak the Republicans' hand actually is. Their nominee for president is a twice impeached, 4 times indicted, convicted felon whose last act in office was to incite an insurrection. They point to Biden's gaffes, and yet purportedly in his right mind, Donald Trump thinks Obama is still the president.
Putin, has so little respect for Obama that he's starting to throw around the nuclear word today. You heard that, nuclear. He's starting to talk nuclear weapons today. I was waiting for that to happen, but we have a fool as a president. He said, we will never leave until there is complete and total victory. We might be there for a long time.
And that Jeb Bush got us involved in the Middle East, and that Nikki Haley was in charge of security at the Capitol on January 6th.
By the way, they never report the crowd on January 6th. Nikki Haley, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything? Deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, so whatever they want. They turned it down. They don't want to talk about that.
And that you need ID to buy bread.
If you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID. You go out and you want to buy anything, you need ID and you need your picture.
And that he discovered that U.S. for United States spells us, and that he possibly did more for black people than Abraham Lincoln.
Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done.
And the list goes on and on. If we're going to have a conversation about mental state, I'll take the old guy versus the convicted felon with the IQ of a 4th grader any day of the week. But all of this is helpful in one sense. It gives us all a preview of what to expect in the coming months. Republicans have already tipped their hands in terms of the extent they're willing to go to perpetuate this narrative. And so the next time you see a video of Biden that purports to show him talking to no one or wandering off, just know that the GOP's sole priority is to paint this picture in an effort to distract you from the real issues. So ignore the media spin, ignore the deceptive practices, ignore the bad faith political operatives whose only objective is to lie to you. And most importantly, as we head toward November, cast your ballot not based on which party was able to whip up the most fury, but based on which party is going to help usher in the future that you want for your country. If you're looking for a future in which abortion rights, contraception, IVF are stripped away, a country where guns are readily available without restriction, a country where climate change isn't taken seriously, a country where a president is given the same rights as a king, then vote for the Republicans. But if you want to live in a country where reproductive rights are protected, where the climate is protected, where the middle class and low-income folks are a priority, where schools are made safer, where the rich pay their fair share, and where democracy is actually defended, then you can vote for the Democrats. The decision here could not be more clear. Before you go, to see more content from MSNBC, make sure to subscribe to this channel by clicking the link right here on this screen. And you can also follow the link to see some exclusive content only on TikTok.